Now looking at some local stories, the local pool's expected to see some facility changes in the coming months. Our Tate Lakecraft took the time to learn more.
Some 400 lockers are split between three change rooms at the BioClean Aquatic Center, but according to manager Mary Price, the bulk of them don't work.
So I would say about 75% of those lockers are not operational.
In response to the malfunctions, City Council has approved a motion that will replace all of the pool's lockers at an estimated cost of $265,000.
We've been monitoring the lockers for the last couple years and been noting how many of each year have been breaking and been replacing some, and then COVID hit. So then we haven't had the high use of our lockers. So this seemed like the right year to put them through.
The project is expected to take place during the pool's annual shutdown in August. Mayor Albers says that functional lockers won't go to waste.
We're looking at a total new locker replacement with the old lockers that are still salvageable for use going to the Lloyd Golf and Curling Center. So we're redeploying existing assets that still have some life left in them.
Tate Lakecraft, Primetime Local News.
Lakeland College is celebrating a new partnership with the University of Alberta as they recently signed a transfer agreement for one of their programs. Lakeland College Animal Science Technology students have a new opportunity to take their education further with the U of A's Faculty of Agricultural, Life, and Environment Sciences, as the new agreement will allow students to easily transfer to the university.
So the biggest surprise from our end was when they went through the courses and really looked at the competencies and how they lined up with their degree program, their Bachelor of Science in Agriculture degree. It was a complete 2-for-2 block transfers.
A transfer agreement between the two schools isn't unheard of, but in the past it was harder for Lakeland College students to transfer over.
They transfer into the University of Alberta, they might have a year and a half. They won't get a full 2 years credit for the 2 years that they spent at Lakeland. They might get credit for about a year and a half of it. So that means that they can still transfer into university, but rather than completing a degree in 4 years, it would take them 4.5 to make that happen.
The transfer agreement between the two post-secondaries will open more doors for students and their employment opportunities once they're graduated.
The biggest benefit, the reason why we work so hard at this is to try to make things better for the students so that they've got options. So if they're looking at career paths down the road that would be more suitable to having that Bachelor of Science in Agriculture degree, they have the flexibility to do that without a lot of penalty for transferring to a different institution on that side.
The agreement will come into effect this fall. As the AJHL season reaches its final leg of the race, Evan Kenny recaps the season with one of the Northeast teams.
Well, I'm pleased to be joined today by the head coach and general manager of the Bonnyville Pontiacs, Rick Swan. Rick, thank you very much for taking this time and joining me. Just starting things off, very successful regular season for the team. You guys finished third in the AJHL North Division with a record of 36, 16, and 8. Obviously, unfortunately, playoffs didn't turn out exactly how you guys would have hoped, but just to start things off, take us through how you thought the season went in general.
Well, Evan, thanks for chatting today. I really appreciate that. And, I think from a Bonnyville Pontiac organization perspective, we had a real promising team and we had lots of significant accomplishments throughout the year that we were able to be awarded. Things like we had 2 guys on the All League North team. We had 3 nominations for AJHL awards. We had 12 NCAA commitments this year, which was second only to the Brooks Bandits, and something significant for our organization because our ultimate goal is to try and move guys on. Alex Power was the all academic team. We had in a COVID year, we still managed a way to get out in our community and embrace the support that they give us and be involved. And throughout our team, we found neat, unique ways of providing presentations, anti-bullying messages, and you have a team that has that much talent and you get into playoffs and you think that you do everything right. And what you can't account for is super hot goaltending by Whitecourt and them just capitalizing on chances when you know that as a team that you feel that you're better, and in a 7-game series that will all determine it. But it wasn't the case. So there's some reflection for sure for us moving into next year. And you think about the expectations that the town has from when I came here 9 years ago, and it was just to be competitive and make the playoffs and try and build good men for the future and try and move good young men onto the next level, to the point now where, you know what, Rick, there's more pressure here for you to win because now you've got those good players. And I'm really proud of that. The fact that we're have evolved so much in the last 9 years to the point that we are at now. And so we're doing a lot of real good things, Evan, I think. And the year was good if you can pull away from maybe the result that we got in the first round, and really reflect about how we're going to now keep the same program going and keep those positives, but at the same time, figure out a way that we can move, for a long playoff run. And certainly we would love to be playing now, but it's also a time now where we get to dive in and look at ourselves with a critical eye and really assess where we need to get to in order to do that.
And Rick, just going to touch on, two players that you mentioned in AJ McCauley and Cash Rasmussen, both of them being honored by the league for North Division All-League Team. Both these guys wore letters for your team. You could rely on them, when you were down a goal to go out there and get one, or if you needed to keep one out of your net. Just talk about those two guys and, the impact that they had on the Pontiacs this year.
Absolutely, and so well earned. And if you look at our captain, Cash Rasmussen, he's a 5-year guy in our league on paper, and he's played maybe the equivalency of 2 full seasons, I think 150, 160 games, because of the significant amount of adversity that he's gone through. He tore his ACL in training camp a few years back and missed the entire year. We had a COVID season last year that was minimalized. Boy, the kid has had everything from ankles to strep throat to mono. And the fact that he's the real true definition in my mind of perseverance. And he's allowed those injuries not to deter his mentality of being the best he could be. He used that as fuel to make sure that he came back as a leader that he should be, that you'd expect from a 5-year veteran. And boy, this year's been terrific for him. Michigan Tech scholarship. He was our MVP, our most valuable player. And then as well as for him to get recognized by our peers as one of the players that they'd love to have on their team is so deserving, especially because of the adversity that he's fought through that not many players, go through, and to stay tough mentally. And AJ McCauley is just, he's a warrior for us. He's a local Bonnyville born and raised guy. We know that most teams have honorary captains at the beginning of the game where they get minor hockey league players come in. He was that guy as a young guy, always dreamed of playing for the Bonnyville Pontiacs. And we obviously saw something in him early on. He played with us as a 17-year-old, and now he gets to move on and take his hockey career to the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And I just think that both those guys, the leadership that they show, the composure, the maturity, not only puts our leaders going into next year in a better place, just observing them and using them as role models, but both those guys will impact both Michigan Tech and Alaska Fairbanks in ways that are going to be indescribable, because they're both culture enhancers. They're caretakers of the culture. They do it right every day in terms of what they bring to your dressing room, but also your community. And the most important thing with both of them, they're not only great human beings, but they understand that doing it right is an all the time thing. And we're really, really proud and we're thankful that the rest of the league recognize what they bring value to our team as well.
Well, Rick, thank you very much for taking this time and joining me. This was Bonnyville Pontiac's head coach and general manager, Rick Swan.
Sticking with junior hockey, the Wainwright Bisons will host the Alberta Junior B Provincials starting tonight. The two-time provincial champs will be joined by the St. Paul Canadians out of the Northeast, the Fort St. John Huskies from the Northwest, the Sherwood Park Knights and Beaumont Braves from the Edmonton region, the Cochrane Generals and Okotoks Bison from the Central, and the Calgary Rangers representing their city. The championship takes place Sunday afternoon. And now to give us another look at this evening's forecast, we go to Shelby Clark.
Thanks so much, Jasmine. Now taking another look at your weather forecast, we'll be checking out the central zone of our provinces here, and we are seeing some positive, some plus temperatures definitely on the map, with most spots seeing 7 degrees on the Alberta side. It is 5 in Edson and Jasper, and Rocky Mountain House is just hitting that 6-degree mark. Now switching over to our Saskatchewan side here, they are seeing those plus temperatures, but as you can see, they definitely are slightly cooler compared to the Alberta side. Most spots seeing 3 degrees, 8 up in Cold Lake, while there's 1 in Saskatoon and North Battleford. And now going over to our northern region now. Unfortunately, most have reached past that minus point compared to what they did see yesterday. Up in Uranium City and Stony Rapids, they're at -5, -6 degrees, -4 in Wollaston Lake, while the rest are seeing the plus degree points. 3 in most spots on the map in Southland and La Ronge are at 4. Switching now over back to the Alberta side here, they are seeing some plus temperatures, especially down in this area. They do see some warmer temperatures compared up in Fort Chipewyan and High Level. They are slightly cooler at -3. Fort McMurray is just hitting that 0 mark, while Peace River is just hitting 1, and it is 3 in Slave Lake, and Grand Prairie is looking the warmest at 7 degrees. Now going over to our southern region now, they have cooled down quite a bit compared to yesterday when they were seeing those double-digit temperatures, but now they have cooled down. They're kind of like what we are sitting at in the central zone. 9 in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, while the 7 in both Calgary and Coronation, and Banff is looking the coolest at 4 degrees. Over on this end here now, Estevan is looking the warmest. They are seeing 13 degrees, so they are at that double-digit points, while the rest have cooled down just slightly. 4 in Yorkton and Kindersley, while the 6 in Regina and Moose Jaw, and Swift Current is just hitting 3. And now going back across the region, seeing what we will expect throughout our evening, we will be pretty happy to see that we will be seeing some nice evening lows for sure. Most spots we're still seeing those showers and flurries continue on throughout the day today, but now for our evening low, we will be seeing some not too bad of temperatures. Wainwright will even be seeing a low of 1 degree. Unity, Murnum, and Provost will be seeing a low of -1, while Pearceland will be seeing a low of -3. Bonneville and Paradise Hill and Meadow Lake will be seeing a low of -2, -4 degrees, and Isla Cross will be seeing a low of -6. And Isla Cross and Meadow Lake will be seeing a high chance of some flurries starting up in their evening, while the rest will just be seeing some cloudier skies, so it won't be too bad whatsoever tonight. Now looking at temperatures tomorrow across the region, we will be seeing not too bad of a Friday to start off this weekend. Most spots seeing between 3 and 5 degrees in most spots. Down in Provost and Mackland, they'll be seeing slightly warmer, seeing 6 and 7, while on the Saskatchewan side, they may be seeing some slightly cooler temps with that 0 mark, and even up in Isle Cross, they'll be seeing -1. Then on the Alberta side, Edmonton will be seeing not too bad with that 4-degree points, and the rest will be seeing around 3. And now ending off with our 7-day forecast for here in the border city, we will be seeing a warmer weekend with 4 degrees on both Saturday and Sunday with a mix of sun and cloud. Then next week, we will be seeing some nice warm temperatures at 5 degrees on Monday, seeing a high chance of some flurries unfortunately next Tuesday, but that will melt down later on through the week when we will be seeing that 7 and 10 degree mark on Wednesday and Thursday. That is another look at your weather forecast. Our Jasmine King will have more news coming up after the break.
Speaking with us for Primetime Local News is Kim Crockett with the B Fisher Center. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here, Shelby.
Of course, we're always glad to be able to have you on here, Kim, and be able to speak with you. And now we are here to speak on a new fundraising initiative that the B Fisher Center is partnering with Wickham. Can you kind of explain a little bit more details on what's all involved in this?
Sure. So a bit of the backstory, Shelby, and I think we've had some of these conversations over the past, probably months and maybe even a couple of years. But yeah, B Fisher's been actively doing some fundraising. to raise quite a bit of funds, actually over $250,000, to try to do a number of improvements at several of our care homes in Lloydminster. And when we first started the fundraising, we were able to take on some projects. That first year afterwards went really well, and then COVID hit, and we all kind of have an idea what that did to everybody. So now that we're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, we're ramping up our fundraising efforts again. And so one of the things that we were able to do this spring is a partnership with Wickham Nurseryland. They've been fantastic helping out all sorts of other organizations, even schools here locally, do some fundraising. And it looks like it was our turn to partner up with them this year. So what they've done is they've set aside a selection of items that individuals can purchase through our website, and a portion of all the proceeds from those sales are going to go back in B Fisher and help us with our next projects.
And can you list off any examples of some of the plants for what people can expect when they look online and look at the list?
Absolutely. So, well, the starting point is if anybody wants to see exactly what it is, our website has got a full list of them, and that's simply bfisher.com/fundraiser, and you'll find it on there. And you can also simply just go to our homepage and you'll see a link right to the fundraiser page. But it's a selection of some herbs, some succulents, some tropical baskets, some bedding plants for planting on your own, and then tomatoes. And then I think one of the most common ones this time of year, as we get close to Mother's Day, is those hanging baskets. And so they've got a great selection of them. And so we're able to sell some of them on behalf of Wickham as well.
And I'm sure the B Fisher Center is excited to be able to have this back now since COVID has brought it to an abrupt end. How has support been since bringing this back?
It's been good. We just wrapped up our first ever online auction back in February, and we're really happy with how that came together, and looking forward to probably making that an annual event going forward. It was such a tremendous response that we had from the community. So for an event like this, a little bit different in nature, and even though really spring doesn't seem to have taken hold on us just yet, really happy with seeing how the orders are coming in. And I think as the weather gets a little bit warmer, we should see that even bolster up even more. But our cutoff date is April the 17th. That's a Sunday. So hopefully we'll have some really good warm weather by that point in time.
Oh yeah, especially after looking outside today. It's definitely a switch up from the last sunnier days we had for a bit there. So hopefully by that time, we'll definitely have some better weather.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And I know you already brought up a bit earlier on where the website is and where people can be able to access it, but could you expand a bit more on where people can find more information and how they can pick up their orders and whatnot?
Well, I think the only thing I'd probably add in is just reiterate where people can go to make their orders. So that's bfisher.com. Like I say, cutoff date is April the 17th. And then when it comes time to actually picking up your orders, the pickup time is going to be May the 5th. That's a Thursday between 4 and 6 out at Wickham Nurseryland, just south of Lloydminster. And that's the time. And it's just in time for Mother's Day as well, if that's kind of a theme for any of these purchases that are going to be made.
Perfect, Kim. Well, I'm glad we were able to speak today and kind of help get the word out on this fundraiser. And hopefully more people watching will be able to go check out that list online and put in some more orders for you guys. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate the time so much. Thanks again to you, Shelby.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Today for Primetime Local News, I'm joined with local author Billie J. Miller to talk about her upcoming book, The Farm Kids Project. So thank you so much, Billie, for joining us here today.
My pleasure.
So you're planning to release your newest book here this spring. So what can you tell us about this upcoming novel?
I do. This is going to be my fourth book. My first couple of books were the Farm Wives Book Project. I wrote those two books, honoring and celebrating traditional farm wives and non-traditional farm wives on Canadian family farms. The first book was actually very locally focused around the Lloydminster area. My third book came out last year, and this was a kid's book I wrote with my daughters. That was kind of an unplanned aside to write a children's book, but it was kind of a funny story that happened upon us. So me and my daughters decided to write a kids book about our family dog. My fourth book, this is going to be Farm Kids, Stories from Our Lives. And this has been a huge labor of love for me. And to be honest, I've kind of been dreaming of this concept for a couple of years. And the book has stories from over 20 boys and girls, men and women, from the ages of 5 all the way up to 100. And what I did was I interviewed these people and I talked to them about what life is like being raised a farm kid. I feel like we live in such we've lived in a very interesting time this last 2 years, but I feel like we live in such a unique area where we've got cities not far from us, but we've got a lot of farms, we got a lot of country living, rural living, and it's a really special environment to be able to raise kids in that. And I wanted to talk to them and just highlight more wonderful stories from family farms.
And when are you hoping to release it?
It's coming out this spring. It will be out before summer. An exact date I haven't pinpointed yet. I'm just kind of massaging it into being, the best shape that it can be. But it's going to have a lot of interviews in it, amazing photographs of these individuals, and just really great stories. You can sign on to my website is the best place to get information, billyjmiller.com. And I'll have a release date on there as soon as it's available. But you can always find my books online wherever you order your books. But I also like to sell it at as many local stores as possible. Legacy DIY in Lloydminster carries my books, has a book stand of my books. Cornerstone Co-ops in Vermilion and Wainwright, and as well as Farmstead Market in Kitscoty.
And what is the message that you're hoping to get across with this new book?
I was just writing that last week, actually, and kind of a final summary I was writing about the book. And, I think the book is being written for 3 reasons, really. And number one, it is being written for us, for farmers, for people who live in our communities, people who live our life. It's a celebration of that. It's a celebration of the kind of lives that we're offering our kids. But it's also being written for my kids. I want them to kind of have a remembrance and a really good story they can look back on in years from now, and kind of that encapsulates their life. But it's also being written for people who aren't farmers. I think that the stories will be really interesting for people to read because, there's a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of lack of information out there between the rural and the urban lifestyle, right? And I feel like this book will do a really good job of telling the story of what life is like being raised on a farm. So I look forward to sharing that.
You wrote your last book with your 2 daughters. So what was that like? And did you kind of apply the same approach to this book because it is about farm kids? Did you have their input in this book at all?
Oh, I absolutely did. My kids' book was, all of my books are independently published, but I kind of got the help from a company for the first 2 books. So they kind of did all the book design and the layout and all of that kind of stuff, and did all the ISBN register, all the back end business stuff. My kids' book was entirely done by me. We had just been hit with COVID. We didn't have it in our house, but the COVID pandemic hit. And so I found myself at home trying to work from home with 2 small kids. And as I said, this funny story happened with, our dog. And someone had kind of said to me, you need to write a children's book about this. It's too funny to be true. So I decided to kind of take it on as a project, right? And yeah, that was entirely written with my daughters. They helped me with the graphics. They told me what pictures they thought were good for it and stuff like that. And so this book, I'm kind of following the lessons I learned from that book and the knowledge that I gained from writing that book completely on my own. And I'm fully independently publishing this one too, which is kind of why the release date is just a little bit up in the air. But I just really want to make it as good as I want it to be before I release it out into the world. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today and giving us an update with how this new book is coming along.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Nicole.
Ending off, we'll take another quick look at your 3-day forecast. We will be seeing a warm start to our weekend at 3 degrees tomorrow, then seeing that 4-degree point for both Saturday and Sunday with a little mix of some sun and cloud.
Thank you for that, Shelby, and thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News this evening, and you can join us again in the second hour.